Keeping it real, who that sports pod, legendary coach Rock, go 17, let's rock. Who that? Boss kick, black and gold, let's go. First and goal, from the one, best believe, we go punch. Punching in, hit them punch, with them saints, watch us march. Down the field, down your throat, keeping it real, who that sports. Breaking news, interviews, open lines, just for you. Call in, join in. Who that nation? How you doing? Come on in. Take a seat. Sit back. Relax. Put your feet up. Grab a drink and let's talk Saint football. Y'all know what time it is. Time to keep it real. Family, family, family. Today is a special day, baby. Because we got a living legend coming on the show, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. DOLPH ain't by himself. You see my brother there, man. Zach, man, talk to the family, baby.
Hey, what's good, everybody? We're here, man. This is a special one, man. Shout out DOLPH, man. It's been bringing in so many special guests. It's been so much fun, but this one is extra special because I don't think there's not a soul in New Orleans that doesn't know who this special guest is. So let's go ahead. Without further ado, let's bring him on in. Mr. Mike Detillier, how are we doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, guys. Great to be on with you.
Appreciate it, Mike. Again, thank you for joining us, man. Listen, for those who don't know who this man is, and I'm sure there's a few of you who do, but then again, there are some, because we actually got a few Falcon fans who done tuned in today. I see you. They want to come on in, you know. Well, look, we got a living legend here. This is Mr. Mike Detillier of WWL 870 AM Sports Talk. He's a legend in the NFL because of the great work he does in scouting. Every year, people used to line up and wait for Mike Detillier's release of that year's draft class, man. It was one of the best publications out there. And again, like I said in the promos, there wasn't a player that Mike basically didn't know about. If the player played in the state of Montana and Our Lady of the Saints, Mike Detillier, 95% of the time, knew a little bit something about that player that no one else did. That's the kind of gentleman we have with us today. Again, it's an honor, and we thank you for being here. And before we get started, we're joined by the co-host of the Keeping It Real Who That Sports podcast. He a legend in his own right, in his own mind, that is. But anyway, let's welcome my brother, my big brother, Coach Rock. Coach, get on in here, baby. How you doing?
Well, that's a hell of an introduction you just gave me.
You know I love you. You know I love you. Ain't nothing but love, baby. How you doing today?
Hey, guys. How y'all doing, man?
We doing good, great, man. Joined here by Mike Detillier, man. And, hey, let's get to it. Let's have some fun, man. Let's have some fun. First topic of the day. We can go straight to talking Saint football and all of that, but I don't want to talk Saint football. We want to talk Mike Detillier. So, Mike, what inspired you to get into journalism as a football analyst and scouting?
Never was a journalist in my life. I was an engineer for 28 and a half years. So, but, you know, my mom was alive, God bless her. She would say, you could have done this when you were 11 or 12 years old. It was always there for me, always that interest in sports. And, you know, I got so many family members who either played or coached. And so you in that environment all the time. I mean, every day, 24/7, 365. And so, you know, again, I was in the engineering world, and I always feel as though there's a little bit of a connect the dots with scouting a player or looking at an organization and also the engineering world. There's certain elements that you have to look at. And so for me, I was just very fortunate. I never spent 1 second in a journalism class, never went to school for it, nothing. And I'm an engineer. And so, but I had a friend of mine that I went to school with in high school. And at that time, Hap Glaudy was the sports talk host on WWL radio. And he told him, man, I hear all these guys you got on, man, they don't know nothing compared to Mike. And he was like, well, where does he work? And he started telling, he was like, okay, I got to talk to him. So one thing with him, he didn't know the difference between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. So he calls me up one night, like at 11:50 at night. We start talking. And after about 10 minutes, he says, you coming on Sports Talk WWL tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, okay.
At 11:50 p.m.
At 11:50 p.m. And then, so I did those years with Hap, and then he passed away, and then I became really close friends with Buddy DiLiberto. Buddy D was the guy. And man, we went all over together. We traveled together. We did shows all over. And so that sort of built up a time frame for me in doing this. And I did the draft book for 37 years.
Wow.
And, a few times, I would say 8 to 10 times, you get asked about, would you consider getting into the scouting world, come and work for a team? And how it got negated real quickly was, what do you do and how much you make? And, oh, no, we can't pay you anything close to that. So it started almost like a hobby, and then it became basically business for me. And then when I retired from engineering, I made a promise to my wife that I would never, ever take a full-time job again. Well, COVID hits, and then a year later, WWL comes calling. And they were like, we want you to work here. I was like, well, okay, I already work there. I said, no, not part-time. We want you to work full-time. Yeah. I've never been a full-time host in my life.
Right.
And so we financially, after, come on, you got to negotiate. That's just the way the world works. You got to negotiate.
Right, of course.
And once we came up with it, I reached out to people that I knew, that I trusted, that could tell me kind of how to do this, as not as a guest, as a host. That's a difference between being a guest and a host. And the best advice I got, Lee Zurich, who was on Fox 8 in New Orleans, and he was in sports for a while. So him and I knew one another. Then he became like Mike Wallace. I mean, you didn't want to see Lee Zurich at your house because you were under a heavy investigation. Ask the mayor of New Orleans about that. Lee told me, he said, Mike, one trait you got, and I think you'll be real good at it. He said, you listen. It's the best trait a guest host can have, because you, in your mind, have a list of questions you want to ask.
Right.
But if you listen well, a lot of times what people tell you gives you a question you never thought of. He was absolutely right. And so it's been 3 years for me, and it's going to be 3 years in July for me in doing it. And I said, I'll do 3 years, and then that's it. And then they came back and said, come on, Bobby's working part-time now, just during the football season. Could you do it? And you can do a lot of it from your house if you want to. Then they knew about my knee problems. And I was like, okay. And so I'm signed on for 2 more years. But that's sort of in a nutshell kind of how it went down for me, that it really started as a hobby. I did it. I mean, I had friends. My brother's 5 years older than me. And so his friends would like, man, your brother knows all these players from here and there. No, man, my brother's, I don't know how you keep all that in his head. And now I work with Bobby. Bobby's like, man, I got to write everything down. Mike, you come here with no script, no nothing. You just peel it off. Players, coaches, all this stuff. I said, okay, when I start to lose that, then it's time for me to leave. So in a nutshell, that's sort of how it's been for me. It's been a great run, great ride. Got to meet so many super people in the business. you find out a lot of times guys locally, and I say guys, men and women, I should say, locally know a lot more about the team than the national people do. Because,
Yes.
you know, I do a ton of national shows, if it's Fox, if it's ESPN, and they know a little section, but they don't know it like the people who cover it day to day do, or cover college football or whatever. And I still go through the same thing, even though it's been 3 years, I haven't done the draft book. I still go through the same thing every day. I'll wake up, I'll go watch film on a player. I'll write it down on a yellow pad, and that keeps it in my head. And then I'll put it on my computer. But, it's the routine for me is the same. It gives me something to do in my 60s that keeps my mind rolling really well. And I enjoy doing it. And I enjoy seeing the younger people in this business like you guys are, because you're the next hand of baton. It's a new wave. When I grew up, they didn't have this internet stuff and, cell phones, everything else. So you become information people for a new generation. And I love to see that. I might be in my 60s, but I don't think like a 60-year-old. I think like a 20-year-old. And
Hey, tell him.
That's the way I look at it today.
Gotcha. So, Mike, who would you say were your sort of mentors, those who like set the example for you to follow, being that you didn't go to school for journalism and you jumped into this field? So who would be some of your mentors?
One of them is a guy you probably know. Don Landry was one of them. Don was the head basketball coach at Nicholls State University. And then he becomes the athletic director there, but he was a draftnik. Oh my God. He loved that draft as much as anybody could love it. And he got me involved with it. And he was like, man, you're too good not to be on radio, TV. And he sort of pushed that element with me. Learning from Buddy D, because he was one of the legendary guys in the city of New Orleans and in Louisiana. Nobody has won more awards as a writer, because he wrote for the Times-Picayune, Advocate, and then he was on television for over 20 years, and he thought his career was over with, and WWL Radio calls him, and he has another career on radio, and he wins countless awards. Learning from him, because we all learn from one another. And I'm a big believer in this, guys, that no matter what profession you in, and being around people who have money and people who don't, this is still a people's business. Who you surround yourself with, who you listen to. Now, sometimes you get advice and sometimes you get criticism. Some people take criticism really harsh and they get upset about it. Okay, my thing is, so what? And sometimes criticism is good because it gets you to think about maybe things that you can do better. And so Don to me would be one, Buddy would be the other. And then, just seeing kind of how the world goes and watching so many different people too, that has transitioned from being either newspaper and TV to what we're doing today. And I told you a story like Greg Cosell's one of them. Greg and I, we worked in a number of different things with NFL Films. And so, he was like, Mike, you got enough dough. You don't have to do anything, but you like to do it. And that's different, that you want to do things. And so those would be the people that I really look up to, and the people that can transition from one thing to the next. Because if you stay stuck, you stuck. You're gonna, if you live in the past, you're gonna die in the past. You got to live in the present.
Gotcha.
That's it.
Man,
yeah, I wanted to.
Go ahead,
yeah, let me go ahead. I wanted to ask too, because you talk about obviously it's something. It's a difference between when you're just forced to do something because you're doing it for a check or income or whatever it may be. But once you find something that's passionate about it, it really changes your perspective of life, man. The days go by easier. They're more fun, more enjoyable. And you talked about how, through the years you have the yellow pad, you switch to the computer. Was that something that you've always done even before you got into the team business?
Before.
Or you doing
before.
your engineering school?
Even before. I do it a certain way. Now, that's one thing. I'm like a race horse. I mean, the blinders are on. I write, and then I transfer it from my writing to the computer. That's the way I've done it. That'll be the way I do it to the day I die. Just the way I find it's more comfortable for me. And a lot of times in transferring something that I wrote, I will think of something that I didn't write, but I type in. That's why my draft book could have been like 900 pages instead of 200 and something pages. I do more editing than anything else.
That's funny.
Gotcha. And speaking of just to go back, man, Buddy D, man, there was no one like Buddy D, man, and no. I remember listening to Buddy D, man, and Abdul in the Magic Tent carpet ride, and man, but I got to know this. Where did Buddy first come up with the term the squirrels, man, them squirrels coming out the trees, man? When did he first come up with that?
Somebody told him that.
Okay.
Buddy would go walk in the park, and there was always squirrels running around. And somebody mentioned to him one time, Buddy, because he had heart surgery, so he was sitting down in the park, and squirrels would running passing him left and right. And so somebody mentions to Buddy that, man, look at this here. Squirrels, they got a small brain, but man, they do the same thing over and over and over again, and sort of chirp the same way over and over again. And it went bing, bing. It popped in his head. Okay. Same thing as when he was the first guy to put the paper bag over his head. And that came about because he owned Buddy D's bar at that time. And one of the bartenders, he loved to watch TV, and he loved to watch the Gong Show. And they had the Unknown comic, and he'd come out with the paper bag. And so he's telling Buddy about, the Unknown comic and the paper bag. And man, the one thing with Diliberto, you didn't have to tell him twice. If it was an idea, he was going to steal it. And so, man, he took it and he ran with that babe. Other than one night, this was around Christmas time, 1980. And someone had made him a paper bag, but it was with Christmas lights circled all over. Well, he plugs it in because he wanted that effect of the lights blinking. Well, one of them lights short-circuited. Man, he burned himself underneath his cheek, around his neck. Oh, yeah. He said, I learned my lesson. I'm not putting on that bag no more. But, Buddy was innovative. And, people talk today about how bad the Saints are. And listen, they're not good. But I think about him. I grew up with it as a kid, okay, because I saw year one with the Saints in 1967, but I was just 7 years old. He saw it as a grown-up covering it. They go 20 years and don't post a winning season. 20 years and they'll post a winning season. 9 of the first 10 years, either you had a top 10 pick or you had a pick in the top 10 that you traded away. Just think how much he went through to watch that. And I think about him and Hap Glaude and Wayne Mack and Peter Finney and those guys, Bob Russell, that covered this team that was so bad. We went through kind of the golden years with Coach Payton, and that you ran that through like no other time. Jim Mora had a nice run, but they never won a playoff game. Jim Haslett won one playoff game. But to see what Coach Payton did and have that opportunity, you win a Super Bowl, you had a couple other shots, things went crazy. And Amy Trask was the former, she was the vice president of the Raiders under Al Davis. And now she works for CBS now. She's a lawyer. And she was like, the Saints under Sean Payton reminded me so much of the Raiders under John Madden in the 70s, and that they had a great run and they were looked at a certain way and they were box office, but they only won one Super Bowl under Coach Madden. Only one.
Yeah.
Now, with Flores, they won two, but under John Madden, one. Then you think about in the 70s, you had the Steelers, you had to beat the Dolphins. Man, those were some really tough teams that you had to get there. And some of the crazy ways, like the Immaculate Reception. How can you lose a game like that? It's almost like the no call, so to speak, in sort of football ways. So, you think about, man, what Buddy went through and all that time. And then he sort of had his own little group of guys that would call in. If it was Dr. Kevorkian, if it was Abdul the Tent Maker, different people, Sid from Jefferson, all those cats. And it became entertaining in a time when the team wasn't entertaining, but the post game was entertaining.
Yeah. Right. I'm just sitting there thinking of, like, you know, going through that and being grown and covering the sport and everything like that, and being like, okay, I'm a Saints fan, new team in Louisiana, my state. Let's go ahead and ride with it, and then go through 20 years of just pain and suffering. And it's like, man, did I really want to support this team? Like, could I go back to the old one? No, I'm committed now. I'm committed now.
Bad. And then, you know, Buddy became a really vocal critic, and then the owner at that time, John Meekum, was enough's enough. I got enough of this. And so he banned him from the plane. So he sent his assistant over to, at that time, it was Channel 8. Channel 8 was an ABC station at that time. And, you know, his assistant says, listen, buddy, we banning you from the plane. You'll never be able to get back on the team plane again. And just in case you the next Lazarus, you banned for life plus 10 years. Buddy was, man, that's really bad. When
that's crazy.
Me after death, you know, and Buddy passed away in 2004. So, you know, 2005, excuse me. And so, man, you know, so the 10 years have passed. So if he came back, he could get back on the plane.
Hey, there we go.
You would like that.
You know what? Let's talk about some Saints football today, man. Like, you know, obviously, you know, we're at this new moment in Saints history where we're trying to move on from the good years, the prime years, and going into this new segment where we have new head coach and Kellen Moore, and, you know, two very talented young quarterbacks that we're wanting to see who will go ahead and take that starting job. What has been your thoughts on the Saints' current quarterback battle between Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler?
Okay, coaches won't tell you, but I will. This job is Tyler Shuck's. I mean, you didn't pick him in the second round, and this was Kellen Moore's first major decision. It is Kellen's decision. If it don't work out, you can't blame this on Jeff Ireland, can't blame this on Mickey Loomis, can't blame this on anybody else. This is Kellen Moore's guy, and it is his job to lose. It is his job to lose. So Tyler Shuck's the guy, and Spencer's looked, you know, impressive in the drills and everything, but you got no pass rush. I mean, this ain't a real game, you know, so there's still things to be answered with Tyler Shuck. But, you know, just in watching him in his days, and we were laughing when he got picked. I told him, you know, you and I talked. He was at Texas Tech. He came to Manning Passing Academy, and then he came when he was at Louisville. So we've had a couple of different conversations just to watch him. One, he's a big guy. He's a 6'5" guy. And I look at size and speed as a trait, a good one to have when you're that big and you can throw a football like he can. The other thing about him that's impressive in watching him on tape is that I think some guys drift into pressure, young quarterbacks. They drift right into it. I think it's a bad trait Caleb Williams has with the Bears today. He had it with SC, but he could get away with it there. People say, well, Jaden Daniels does. No, when Jaden Daniels drifts, Jaden Daniels taking off running, you're in trouble. Jaden Daniels like a track sprinter out on that football field. Jaden is really a pocket quarterback. And when he drifts, he's drifting to run.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb's drifting to try to throw. Watch Tyler Shuck in plays. He'll maybe take 1 or 2 steps left, 1 or 2 steps right, but he stays in that lane and he throws the ball over the top. So I like that in a quarterback, that he doesn't drift, because I think sometimes you get into a bad habit, especially if you're playing behind a bad offensive line. And I think Spencer Rattler got into that because he played behind a bad offensive line that last year at South Carolina. So I like what I see with Chuck. He's smart. He's mature. He understands there are some growing pains that are going to happen with this team. But you do have people around you that have played the position, like Kellen Moore has, Scott Tolson has, Nussmeier has, that can relate to the issues you have as a young quarterback. I think it's so important to have that around you. And I'm a big believer is this football team's got to go out and get him a veteran quarterback. You got to find the right guy that would play like mentor to Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. Drew Brees, in talking to him twice since they selected Tyler, he brought up the fact that it really helped him so much in his growth when he was with the Chargers. He had Doug Flutie. Okay. Yeah. Doug was an old man, but Doug had played in the CFL. And then he goes in his final sort of years with the Chargers, and great mentorship of, hey, look, this is what I see. You missed that safety over the top here. You missed that they changed coverages. And he also brought up Mark Brunell those first couple of years with the Saints. Mark had played in the league for so long, had been a starter with Jacksonville in his mentorship. But you got to find the right guy that would take that position. I'm not here to be the starter. I'm here to kind of communicate with you as a player. I see it, and let me explain to you. But some people don't get that. They're like, oh, just let the young kids play. Think about the first time you ever were at a job. Somebody helped you. Somebody helped you in those jobs. Okay, but they got people who are so thick-headed about the fact that, just let the young kids play and learn as they play. No. How you learn from someone else. And I go back to, this is a people's business. Right. It's a people's business of communication. And Kellen Moore, man, he got a lot of stuff on his plate. He's just not coaching the quarterbacks here. He's the head coach. And every day, it's not like you getting a paper in, well, all the offensive linemen, everything's good. There's always going to be something wrong. Personal, professional, always something you have to deal with. Injuries, you name it. Quarterback coach, you're not only dealing with the starter, you're dealing with others, you're dealing with the receiver. So there's a lot of things there, but I like what they have done in picking a mature quarterback who understands the pro game very well, who's been scuffed a little bit in life, because we all have. It's not about the scuff. It's about picking yourself up and moving on to it. I think that's so important. Everybody has a little bit different story in their lives on how things worked for them. And so I don't think you got to say it if you're the coach, front office. It's quarterback competition. But come on, all of us know this ain't no competition. This is Tyler Shuck's job. And it's him to lose it. I'm not saying Rattler can't beat him out, but he's got to lose it because they've given him the baton.
Right. And Coach has a question for you before he has to get on out of here. Coach, what's your question for Mike?
Yeah, man. I just wanted to say I came on, wasn't feeling good, but my boss Dolph tell me show up. I show up, man. But Mike, I'm older than these two little babies on here, my co-host. But man, I've loved watching you, hearing you talk.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to come on and actually meet you, man. But I'm gonna step off right now. I'm not feeling well, but I just wanted to make an announcement. Zach, Dolph, keep it going, bro. I'm gonna be stepping away from everything right now with medical concerns. I have a great team of doctors working with me. My family's working with me. So I'm asking for everybody prayers as I go through this transition. I'm gonna go and continue watching this show, but I just wanted to make that announcement. I came on, dog, just because day one, bro, you asked me to be here, and I promised I would be here with you. And anytime you need me, I'm gonna be here, Zach. I'm gonna be here, man. I'm gonna be watching, but I'm gonna be stepping away from everything right now with some medical concerns. And I'm just asking for everybody prayers as I go through this transition, man.
Hey, absolutely, Coach.
You take care,
that, man.
More definitely, big brother. I'll call you after the show.
All right,
man. Love you.
Right, Coach.
All right, man. That's the legendary Coach Rock, my big brother, man. Again, man, prayers up for Coach and the family, man. So we go deal with that. Coach gonna be all right, man. Put it in God's hands, man. All right, let's transition from that. Okay, the thing, Mike, that I noticed about Tyler Shough, talent, size, prototypical, what you're looking for a quarterback, all that's good. On talent, throwing all platform is good. But the things that I've noticed, when the pocket gets muddy, he has a tendency to throw off his back foot. And sometimes when he's escaping the pocket for some unspecified reason, he does things that you shouldn't do with the football. In other words, he puts the ball in harm's way too much. What's your thoughts on that? That's what I see when I look at Tyler Shough.
Okay. I can't disagree with you throwing off back foot because all quarterbacks do it. Everyone. It doesn't matter if it was Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, you name it. They throw off their back foot at times. The one trait that he's got to get better at, that's throwing the football over the middle better in the short intermediate part of the game. And sometimes that has to do with knowing where to go with the ball and experience. The one thing with Tyler, he was in college for so long, but it's not like he had a ton of starting experience. So my hope is that will get better, but I can't disagree with you on when he misses or he misfires on a throw, it's over the middle in the short intermediate part of the game. And that is a lot of time a timing issue. You think a receiver's going to sometimes stop and then sometimes a receiver drifts and then you throw the ball and say, oh man, that's a bad throw. Sometimes it's the receiver. So, and not knowing every play, I do see what you're saying. I think that'll get better with experience in starting, in that you see the field better and you know where to go with the football. You know, right. There's nothing that beats experience. Okay, nothing beats. What we saw the last 2 years is an anomaly. One with Jaden Daniels, and what he did last year, it's unbelievable. He looked like he had played in this league about 8 years, and then the year before, C.J. Stroud. And it's not like he's playing behind the 5 blocks of granite with the Texans either. So, and then last year you saw he wasn't quite as effective because now they got film on you. They know where you want to go with the ball. And so they try to take away one part of your game and say, okay, hotshot, make a play somewhere else. And when you don't have good protection, sometimes that doesn't really help. But, man, to see what we've seen the last 2 years with CJ and with Jaden is unbelievable. That does not happen often in this league. I'm going to tell y'all guys a quick story. Every year at the Manning Passing Academy, and I've heard the story so many times, I could tell it as good as Peyton. They have like 45 counselors starting quarterbacks in college football. And, he talks to them and he ends it with, anytime y'all need me for anything, you can call me. I will try to help you as much as I can. I'll try to help you in any circumstances you can. But y'all guys got to do one thing for me. And I'm only asking one thing. Somebody's got to beat my rookie pass interception mark that I set. Now, you think about, was there a guy coming out of college who was more mentally prepared better than Peyton Manning? That list, you can count.
It's him and Andrew Luck.
But it goes to show that he didn't have that experience, and what he thought he could do at the pro level wasn't like what he did at Tennessee. And there's a difference. Just like, we get them on Sports Talk all the time. I'm sure y'all get it too. Man, football is football. I don't care if it's high school, college, or the pros. What? You got to be kidding me. Man, you get on a pro field and watch these athletes, the way they move, the speed of the game. It is warp speed ahead of somebody who played in high school. There's no comparison to that. Do they play with a football that looks the same? Yes. But the game is different.
That's about it.
Totally different. Just like a 5-star recruit coming out of high school and he doesn't make it. But what happened? He wasn't coached well, this and that. No, you know what it was? It's tough. That's a big jump from high school to college, and think about college to the pros. That's a big jump in all of that. But for the average fan, they don't get it. They just want results. I just want you to play and play well. I don't care how you do it. It's like going to the barbecue. You don't ask how the meat got there. You just worried about eating. So,
is it seasoned? Is it cooked right?
I could use.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
So, Mike, go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and obviously quarterback's the big addition through this offseason, but we've had a lot of pickups this offseason. I mean, a lot of players out in the draft. How would you assess the Saints offseason moves so far? I know I saw just before the draft, you were really hoping they would go and grab Mason Taylor, but we decided to forego a tight end. How do you feel about this year's draft and offseason moves?
No team likes to use the dirtiest word in the sports language, rebuild. That's what you're seeing. Okay. And you can't redo everything in 1 year. It doesn't happen that way. But you are seeing the rebuilding of this Saints team. Now, how it turns out remains to be seen. What I like is that you got a big man up front. And if he works out, you've got your starting left tackle in Kelvin Banks Jr. and Taliasa Fuago on the right side. You got those two guys for 10 years, barring a serious injury. You got your bookend tackles. Your best young player is Eric McCoy at center. He's your best young football player. So you got him at center that he could play 10 years. Cesar Ruiz, I think, is a solid to good right guard. What happens at left guard remains to be seen, because you can say, well, Trevor Penning, he should have played there all along. The things I see that was a negative for Trevor, he could play left guard, left tackle, right tackle. It's all going to look the same. His issues early on had to do with coordination with his hands and his feet moving at the same time. Yep. Sometimes guys fall into traps, and he played at Northern Iowa, so you bigger, you a better athlete, you more powerful than 95% of the guys you're going up against. In the NFL, it's swung as an offensive lineman, and all I'm going to tell you the same. 95% of the time when I line up and I look across, that guy's more athletic than I am. So I got to be the technician. I've got to be the technician, and I got to be able to beat him with technique work. Now, I can use my size and my physicality and my power, but I've got to be able also to be the technician. The negative, I think, with the new CBA is, Zach Streif told me this, Mike, guys like Trevor, they get about 20% of the snaps as a rookie and first-year guy. Then I got so much more. They get like 20% of what I got. How am I going to develop technique work when they don't have it good, when they're not on the practice field? And you can say, well, throw them in a game. Wait, do I want to get my quarterback hurt? Throw them in a game. That's everybody. Oh, just let them learn. What? Then your quarterback is horizontal after that on the field. So it is a transition. The one thing I liked about Kelvin Banks, and Archie Manning told me this off the air, and I called him to get him on Sports Talk on the Monday after the draft. He told me he had a conversation with Lil Arch, and he said it was during the season. He said, Mike, I don't know how we got to this, but he said, Lil Arch tells me, the best football player we have on this team is Kelvin Banks Jr. And I think he's probably the best leader we got. People follow him. And I'm like, man, that's impressive. When the quarterback, not that he was the starter, but when a quarterback says that about a left tackle, think about him as an 18-year-old. Man, you walk off of a high school campus, and then all of a sudden, hey, kid, get in there and go up against the top rushers who are playing now mostly at that right defensive end. So you up against them. And he more than held his own. He's a good athlete. You can see he's mature. I like his body balance and his ability to play under control. And he's not a waist bender. He's a knee bender. And it's natural for him. Watch Trevor Penning a lot of times. He's bending at the waist. He's not bending at the knees. And so if you bend at the waist, then I can throw you off. I can throw you off balance that way. And so I like to pick up Kelvin Banks. Thinking about it, he wasn't who I thought they would pick, but I understand the reasoning here, because if you hit, you've got 4/5 of an offensive line set in place. And if you hit with Tyler Shuck, man, that's the other part. So I think you win up front. You look at the Eagles and, listen, I'm as big a Saquon Barkley fan as there is, but they won because of their offensive and defensive lines. And people say, well, it's the Eagles. Here's my deal. I saw USC do this in the early 2000s. Coach O was on that team. He told me, Mike, they got guys on this team defensively that are really, really good. And I think at one time, defensive line, I think they went in a 5-year stretch where they had 17 defensive linemen or stand-up outside linebackers selected in the draft. What? You talk about that's some talent you got. And they always were good up front. You had Reggie Bush, Lindell White, you name it. But, it was a lot about Matt Leinart and, Mike Williams and Carson Palmer. Take nothing away from them, but they won up front. Look, how did Alabama win? Now, in recent years, Coach Saban sort of transferred, even though he didn't want to do it, into becoming more of a passing team, but they won because they could run the football and stop the run. You look at what's made Georgia who they are. They run the football, stop the run. Look, all the cats that come out of Georgia that get drafted every year, offensive, defensive linemen. It is the one element, no matter how this game has changed, 3 wideouts, flex tight end, nobody in the backfield, nickel, dime coverage. One thing stays the same. If you don't win up front, you ain't winning squat. Nothing. You're not winning. It is still a trench game. Now, you love to have the quarterback. Man, that that's still in place, but you went up front, offensive and defensive line. Now, for the Saints, defensive line, they haven't picked real well up front. Now, I think you got a player. I'm interested to see his progression in Brian Bresee.
Yes,
because he was as advertised for me, exactly like I wrote it up. Great athlete, big man, could get up the field. He had a real quick initial step up the field. He knows how to use his arms and hands well, and he's a good interior pass rusher. But because of how he's built, he is so tall cut. He's so much upper body. Man, if I'm going up against him and he doesn't get off the snap quick, man, I get under his pads and I move him when I got to run the ball. So I'm interested to see with Bo Davis coaching him, because Bo's one of the best in the business as a defensive line coach, how he will progress as a defensive lineman. If you've hit there, you know what you got in Carl Granderson, who I think's a good player in this league. I think he's a good player, and you will see him with his hand in the dirt and also as a stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker. And I can say the same thing about Chase Young. I think you'll see the same thing with him. All young players, because you do have some age up front with some of your star players like Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu. Man, Father Time is undefeated and untied. He catch you. And I don't care what profession you in, he catches you. And so that'll be the next sort of rebuild for this team in that front seven, because I think the one thing, if you're going to use a 3-4 alignment, your linebackers got to be bigger.
Right.
They got to be bigger. You can't take these guys that look like they are safety and play them at linebacker. You know, it doesn't work that way. You're going to have to find different ways from a coverage standpoint. And that's why it's so important, nickel, dime people, and people, they just a bit in a piece. No, they have an important bit in a piece. And that's why you will see Alontae Taylor on first and second down playing outside corner. And on third down, you play in the nickel, because now Sean Payton's first one I ever saw do this with Marcus Colston. He put him inside, a lot. People say, well, I don't remember that. Well, no, but he was the first one to do it. He took an outside receiver and he put him in the slot. So Marcus was a 6'4+ guy going up against a 5'9" corner. What? And even Brees told me, man, I didn't even have to make a perfect pass. I just put it out there. Marcus goes get it. So I do think Brandon Staley made the comment that so now you got $30 million a year receivers going up against a $5 million a year third corner. That's why I'm moving my top corner inside. So you're going to see different things. You got to adjust to the game today. And there are always little adjustments that you have to make in this game if you planning on winning. And you look at the Eagles, they did a lot of that with Cooper DeJean this year, who really was a corner, and then they slid him inside, and then they played him over the top at safety. That's Vic Fangio, man. Vic's one of the great defensive coordinators in the game. You got to match up against somebody else's top receiver, and now that top receiver is not playing on the edge anymore. He's playing inside as a slot receiver on third down.
So, Mike, let me ask you this. Which current young players on the New Orleans Saints must step up this year?
Alontae Taylor, I'll tell you right now, right off the bat, Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry. You use a second-round pick, and you traded up to get Kool-Aid. So those two guys come to mind real quickly, that they have got to be able to up their game because of the fact. And, with Kool-Aid, it's different. Even though you were coached by the greatest head coach, defensive back coach in the history of college football in Nick Saban, there is a transition. And teams picked on him, as a rookie. And, Bobby and I talk about this all the time. He's like, Mike, I'll see why, the callers, they don't get it. Why wouldn't I go after the rookie? And it reminded me of a story Ed Reed told me. And Ed has his camp at Destrehan High School every year. And he told me, he said, man, as a rookie, man, they picked on me. And they didn't care that I was an All-American and a first-round pick. Man, I'm going to see how good you are. Because you know what? They want to break you down mentally. Physically is one thing. Mentally, I get in your head if you start giving up plays. He's like, man, at the end of my career with the Ravens, I couldn't hardly run anymore. I wasn't the athlete. They didn't pick on me no more. You know why? My reputation. My rep that I was going to make that play. And even though I wasn't the athlete I once was. So you pick on the rookie guy out there, and he went through a tough time last year, but I thought he got better as the season went along. So Alontae Taylor and, to me, Kool-Aid McKinstry, the other guy is Chase Young. You have spent some coin now on a guy that's been a potential guy. He was terrific as a rookie. Then he had some injuries. Last year he stayed healthy. He got a lot of pressures, but he didn't finish the deal on sacks. Now he's got to be able to finish the deal sack-wise. And he is really a power player. Everybody kind of put him as a speed guy. When I wrote in my draft book about him, he is a power player. He's not a speed guy. He doesn't have great bend and great quickness. But, man, he can turn power into like straight line speed really good. So you spend a lot of money, and he's still young. I think he just turned 26 years old. So those three on defense. On offense, it's certainly the development of Kelvin Banks at left tackle and your two receivers. This next man up foolishness that you hear a lot, there's no such animal. Okay, there was nobody on this roster as good as Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Yeah. Okay, next man up. Yeah. Okay, you might say that in high school. That's great for the locker room. Everybody gets a clap. You can do that. Fairly close there too. And in the pros, that's a Mount Everest drop off. And even after watching it, I still hear it all the time. People say, but Mike, if we lose somebody, it's next man up. What? You saw last year, what happened to that next man up when you started losing offensive linemen? When you started to lose Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, where was your next man? There was nobody close to that. So those two guys would certainly be important for me. One guy to watch, and I liked him in college. He was well coached. I thought he was a little overwhelmed with the NFL game at first, and then he got better, is Bub Means at wide receiver. Because Bub's a bigger receiver than most of the receivers you got. And he does have an air of confidence about him, but your confidence gets shaken sometimes when you going up against pros and you don't win all the time. You could do that at Pitt. You could do that at Louisiana Tech. Man, NFL's a different world. Totally different. So those would be some of the guys. And certainly at running back, it's either squat or get off the pot for Kendra Miller. I mean, he has got talent, and you can see it, and the flashes with him. But Deuce was first one to point it out to me. He was like, Mike, he's not in good shape. You got to come prepared mentally and physically ready for the NFL. And Deuce was the first guy, not giving full credit. He was the first one to say, like, I don't think he's ready for the NFL. Now, everybody want to blame it on the head coach or this and that and everything else. And, when you're the head coach and your job's on the line and you counting on somebody and, my hamstring, I pulled it again. I got another injury again. You can see some frustration there. So I think Kendra has a great opportunity here. I like Devin Neal. I think about, him at Kansas. Can anybody name another player on that Kansas football team?
No, I can't name the quarterback.
Yeah.
And think about it.
To try.
Everybody, when you played against Kansas, my thing is that guy, that's who we got to stop. Man, you talk about pressure. Devin Neal is not the biggest, fastest, strongest guy. Great instincts. You can see he sees the field. His field vision is so good. And then he's always falling forward. No matter if he gets hit sideways, he gets hit, but he falls forward. Man, I love to see that in a running back. And he can catch the ball well. But the one trait he's got that a lot of guys
pass block
don't have when they come out because they haven't been asked to do it much, pass protection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Man, my quarterback, I got to keep him upright. Drew Brees used to talk all the time about Mark Ingram, of how good of a pass protector Mark was. And, he was like, I trusted he was going to pick up the right guy. I remember growing up watching Walter Payton do that. Somebody's coming right up the middle. Man, Walter steps in. Pow! He kind of flips it. The other guy that can do that really well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Watched him at LSU do it. Joe Burrow told me they played Auburn. He was like, man, they were throwing all kind of different schemes at us. And one time they had a safety. And he said, I saw him. He's way in the backfield. He comes running in, unabated. And he said, my thought is, I got to get rid of the ball. He said, man, you can't even see Clyde because he's so short. He said he caught him, and he said it was like a wheelbarrow. He just flipped him over. And he said, I was able to make the pass, and we got a first down out of it. And so that's so important for a running back to be able to pick up a blitz guy, and Devin Neal and Clyde can both do it very, very well.
Great. So, Mike, let me ask you this question here. And again, Mike, we want to thank you, man, for taking time out your day to join us. We really appreciate it. Sitting here right now, what is one of your most favorite football memories of all time?
I think winning the NFC Championship game to get to the Super Bowl.
Well, it's a good one.
That, to me, winning the Super Bowl was great, but you never, growing up as a kid thought, hey, the Saints are going to get there, and then to see how it turns out, and Favre throws this lollipop up over the middle of the field, and Tracy Porter ends up intercepting it, and then Hartley kicks the field goal, and you get there. And it was just the exhilaration in the press box. Okay, you're not supposed to cheer or anything. Man, that's for others. Man, listen, Bobby and I, man, we were thrilled. Bobby cried like a baby. I'm not kidding you. The Spanish announce team, as soon as he kicks the field goal, man, everybody's kind of hugging one another, high five, everything else. I see the Spanish announcer. He's waving to me. Mike, come on. I was like, man, I can't speak Spanish. He said, I don't care. Say it in English. Say it in English. I was like, okay. So we did our deal. He's like, any way you can get Bobby to come here. I was like, okay. So I turn and I look, and Bobby had sort of followed me. And he's crying. And I mean crying. And I was like, hey, Bear, listen, you got to go on the air. He said, man, Mike, I can barely speak English, much less Spanish. And so he got him on. And man, he cried. It was the emotion. And then leaving that stadium to get to where I had parked, in the parking lot. I mean, everybody was so thrilled. And that memory stays with me until the day I die. And the other one would be LSU beats Clemson for the national title.
Yeah.
I grew up with Ed Orgeron, the head coach. Because I went to Central, he went to South, just like Bobby. Intercoastal canals, the separation line. And so I was at Central, he's at South. To see a guy you knew as a young kid, and he's now the head coach of a national championship winning team. Cool. And what it brought so much joy to the LSU people. And I know Coach Miles had won it, and then he lost really one against Alabama that, Saban, man, he outcoached the pants off of him in that game. But to see him win it and people's reaction in the stands, and then, getting to go downstairs and, they have the ceremony and all going on. They hustle Ed out from the ceremony to get back into the locker room. And he sees me by the opening, and that I'll never forget, man.
Gotcha.
Just that, hey, the Bayou boy did it well. I wish he'd have had a longer run with it, but
Right.
That's the case. But man, those two memories stand out for me more than anything, more than the Super Bowl win. Okay, because it was almost like, okay, the Super Bowl is almost the lanyard part of it. Now, I'd have hated to lose it. You got that close and lose it. But to win that championship game, the biggest disappointment, no question for me, was 2011 in San Francisco.
Man.
Don't
hurt me, Mike. Mike, I think that's the best team.
Unbelievable team. That to me hurt me more than the no call, because I really felt that year you had more talent than you did in the 2009 team that won it. Your offense was unbelievable. Drew Brees was, he was unreal that year. You had so much talent. And to watch 4 league changes in the last 4.5 minutes, and to see how it ended with Alex Smith having the game of his life.
Right.
That to me
still
hurt me the most. Man. And to this day, I tell people, I've seen a lot of bad football in my life. You see a lot of it when you're growing up and watching how bad this team was for so many years. I also saw the Ditka years. There weren't a lot of good memories there either. But Mike was entertaining. The one thing with Ditka, man, Mike was entertaining through everything.
That he was.
But Mike became the celebrity coach. He almost, those years away, took away a lot of the things he said he would do. He never did here. He never did with the Saints. So, but those two memories, NFC Championship game, LSU beating Clemson for the national title. But 2011, oh my God, that game in San Francisco. And, when it was over, you were like, how did they lose this game? And you spotted them points, and Pierre Thomas gets knocked out. And yet you fought back and you had a chance. And Vernon Davis, never forget. My friend Jen Hale was on the sidelines that day for Fox Sports, and she was like, when Vernon Davis ran past me, it was almost like I felt the wind. He was so fast running past me, and I couldn't have said it better. So it's her line though. But that game was the hardest for me. Man, I didn't get over that for a long time.
You're right. Now, Mike, I know it's June the 8th, but I got to ask you because we got enemies behind the line today. Shout out to everybody watching on Atlanta Falcons Fandemic. Thank you for being here. NFC South. Right now today, June 8th, in my estimation, the worst team in the NFC South is our New Orleans Saints. Right now, June the 8th, there's not a game being played. We're not in training camp. We haven't seen them throw against Russia, anything. But right now, going into it, I think the Saints on paper are the worst team in the NFC South. I think last year the Carolina Panthers during the season surpassed the New Orleans Saints. I think their arrow is pointing up, and right now the New Orleans Saints arrow is right now we're in purgatory. We don't know what we're going to get. Yeah. What's your thoughts about that?
I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've said that this team's been in football purgatory for years now, post Sean Payton. And when you didn't have the successor for Drew, even that final year with Sean, you in kind of football purgatory too. I think right now, this is a 5-6 win team. The way I look at it, I think that's what you're looking at. I still think Tampa's the best team in the NFC South. You got the most experienced quarterback, guy who's done it. The Bucs have, in a soft rebuild, have rebuilt this team so well Guys, name me another team that returned all 5 starting offensive linemen.
Oh,
Buccaneers.
I can't know fans. I can't.
Bucks. All 5. Man, what? Man, give me that. Now, it'll
and
be
bringing
interesting.
another great weapon at wide receiver as well with the age of Mike Evans. It's like they just kept getting better.
Yeah.
And, Buka is a really good player. I thought Bucky Irving, who's a really smallish back. First time I meet up with Bucky, and, when I got to look down at, because he's 5'7", but, man, he's yoked. He really came through for him big time. But to have all your offensive linemen return, you got Mike Evans returning, you got Ibuka coming in, Baker. Their defense, I think, needs some help secondary-wise. And you got beat up last year, but I still think they're the best team in the NFC South, and I think they win it for the 5th year. Again, it'll be interesting to see the progression with Michael Penix Jr. and Bryce Young, because even though they're 2 different style quarterbacks, they are the keys, so to speak, for both teams at this stage. And I think you saw last year, Bryce got benched, came back. Man, they had Kansas City on the ropes a bit, and they put a few games away. I thought they played pretty well down the stretch. Bringing in McMillan certainly helps them at the receiving core. And then you got, Leggett with another year under his belt. And they ran the football well last year. I thought that was underrated with the Panthers. They ran the ball. With the Falcons, I think offensively, Penix is a key, but can they get a pass rush? And it's, the last consistent pass rusher they had was John Abraham. Now, John didn't even start with the Falcons. I mean, he was with the Jets, then the Falcons. And so that's a long time. Now, Vic Beasley did it for 1 year, the Super Bowl, when they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots. But can they get a pass rush? Because I do think in this league, if you cannot pressure the quarterback and blow up his launch pad, you got issues. And you wonder a little bit, Arthur Blank's been very patient with Terry Fontenot, coaching staff. I don't think he's going to be he ain't going to have any patience if they don't get to the playoffs this year. But so I agree with you. I think the Saints right now, they're the 4th team in the division. They're a 5-6 win team. Anything better than that, man, is really above expectations. But I think they're a 5-6 win team this year. And I really think that the Bucs are the best team in the NFC South.
And my thing is, even though they may be a 5 or 6 win team, is how they look in those 5 as a 5 or 6 win team. Do we see one of these young quarterbacks? Well, do we see Tyler Shuck develop to the point where we're saying, hey, we don't have to go in the draft next year and go after a quarterback because he has, by his play, solidified that position. So now we fully believe we have our franchise quarterback, which would be a huge relief, not only for the Saints organization, but for Who Dat Nation and whole. If we can finally get our franchise quarterback, if it's Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler, I don't know who it is, but like you said, Mike, he's handpicked. The job is his to lose. Now, would it be the worst thing in the world if he doesn't start week 1? It depends on what side of the table you're sitting. What's your thoughts about that?
My thing is, I think once you give him the keys to the car, you can't take it away. I really believe that in a rookie quarterback. I think once you give him the keys, it's his. Once you make up that decision, is it game 1? Is it game 3? Is it game 5? I don't know. But once you give it to him, you make that decision. He's the guy. The Commanders did that with Jaden Daniels. They gave him the keys. It's yours. Once New England did that with Drake May, it's yours.
It is yours, yep.
Sean Payton did it with Knicks. Hey, it's yours. You go get it. Okay, who was the biggest surprise in pro football last year at quarterback? Sam Darnold, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Out of nowhere.
The way he played, he really was so how good he played. Okay, the Vikings said, you know what? We use a first-round pick on J.J. McCarthy. He's our guy. I give him the keys to the car. He's the guy. The Bears did Williams. You the guy. And there's a lot of pressure.
Well, you talk about too the the mentality part of playing in the NFL. So you already got the opposition trying to get into your head. The last thing you want to do is have the coach staff get in your head, give you the keys, give you a taste, and then pull the spoon away, and then be like, "Oh, yeah, sorry, you didn't fit out correctly. Now we're gonna go ahead and pull you back, and we'll try you again." It doesn't work out that way. Once you give him the keys, once you get him under center, that's his job to lose. He needs to play out that season and go from there or move on from it.
I think like last year, the Falcons, they really wanted kind of a 1-year deal with Cousins. Let's win the NFC South with Kirk. And then year 2, okay, Penix, you the guy. I think that was the mentality that they were going to give him the keys in year 2. But then Kirk, he looked almost a shell of himself. And a lot of times, when you're coming out that Achilles injury, especially when you're older, it does have an effect. We saw it with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Early last year, I thought Aaron really struggled. I thought later in the year, he played pretty well. He came back from that. It just takes a little while to do it. So once you make up your mind, you the guy.
You gotta go with it.
The guy. Now, not everybody has the luxury of doing what the Chiefs did. And they had Alex Smith, and they let Alex play the year out and then gave it to Mahomes year 2. I think that's what the Falcons thought they were going to be able to do with Penix. But it didn't work out that way. And sometimes it doesn't. But, guys, bottom line is this. No one that wants to tell you the truth would tell you something that the biggest thing here is Baker Mayfield's emergence as a really good NFL quarterback. I'm not saying he's elite, but he's very good. Changed the NFC South more than anything over the last 3 to 4 years. It changed everything for them because it gave them somebody who showed the maturity. He's a bit of a gunslinger. He will go a little hot and cold, but man, he's tough. He shows you he can make plays when he has to, and he gives you some assurances there that the other 3 teams didn't have. Because Atlanta didn't spend all that money on Cousins because they thought somebody else could do it. The Saints didn't use a second-round pick on Chuck because they thought Rattler was the guy. Okay, Carolina, that was an owner's pick. I'm convinced that the owner wanted Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. I think because the coaching staff there would have said, give me C.J. I don't know if he would have hit the heights in Carolina that he hit in Houston, but I'll put it to you this way. I'm 99% sure people on that staff, they all really like Stroud more than Bryce. But when the multi-billionaire owner says, I want Bryce Young, it's okay, sir. That's who we're going to pick. Right. That's who we're going with. And so it does happen. The Saints had an owner like that in John Mecom Jr. John meddled in a lot of personnel decisions early and throughout the 20-something years he owned the team.
Well, we know so much.
None of that. Tom Benson never did. Gail Benson, she's not going to meddle in any of that. But John did. And I do think there are owners in this league that, and one of them, and he's been successful with the Baltimore Ravens. I think Bisciotti is a guy that does get involved in a lot of major personnel decisions. He's got his fingers, toes, any other body part. But he's had success.
Yeah.
with it. And some owners, I say they just don't own. They may have some say, but not a big say. And then there are other owners like Jerry Jones with the Cowboys and
Right.
Bisciotti and the owner with the Panthers. And you got other guys too that they heavily involved with everything that gets involved.
Right. So, Mike, let's go rapid fire. We know Mike get on out of here and enjoy the rest of this Sunday. Let's go rapid fire. Right now, Mike, give me 2 sleeper teams, one from the NFC and one from the AFC.
In the NFC is the Bears. I really think, I don't know how that division is going to kind of get itself out because, man, you talk about a dogfight. I don't think the Lions are going to be good. You don't lose your starting center and your 2 coordinators and you're the same. I think that's going to be a little bit of a drop off there. I don't think the Vikings are going to be as good this year. I think the Bears got a legitimate shot. I really do.
Okay.
There's some talent on that Bears football team. I think in the AFC, one team to watch who may really do this, and they were a playoff team this year, but I think they'll make a bigger jump, and that's the LA Chargers. I think with Harbaugh, you're going to see them become a real force. And, man, in the AFC West with Denver and Kansas City and the Chargers, the one team I think will be much improved from a year ago is the New England Patriots with Mike Vrabel. I think Mike, he's got the right quarterback. Defensively, they're going to be tough and they're going to be physical.
Man, he got one of the best young corners.
Do they have enough weapons to put up points? But I'm a big Drake May fan, and I think that he's got a chance to get this team to be a 500 team or better, to be a team that could win 9 games this year. Does that get you in the playoffs? I don't know. In the AFC, it might be really, really tough to do. But so I would say Chargers and the most improved team being the Patriots. But, man, watch the Bears because, boy, do they have some talent on offense. And if Ben Johnson can work his magic with Caleb Williams, they are tough out.
Gotcha. Now, Mike, the dinner plate sitting down on the table. Gumbo or jambalaya?
Oh, gumbo for me.
Gumbo.
And potato salad in the gumbo.
And potato salad in the gumbo. There we go, baby. There we go.
Yeah. Potato salad in the gumbo. I grew up on the bayou, and I still live on the bayou. So, that potato salad, that's in the gumbo.
Gotcha. And you see Mike rocking that LSU shirt, baby. Let's go Tigers. With that being said, Mike, your favorite LSU player of all time?
Whoa.
I got Mike saying whoa, baby. Here we go.
I would say it's a tie here, but on defense, Tyrann Mathieu. On offense, Joe Burrow.
Well, okay. Hey,
I
can't disagree with that.
Man,
can't argue.
Tyrann, when he was at LSU, you say how this little guy can make all those plays, and the fear factor when you talk to other players and coaches about Tyrann. Right. It was like, man, we don't know where he's coming from. And then when he's there, he makes a play. He'll strip the ball. He'll make an interception. He'll make a sack. And then Joe was so quietly an arrogant guy athletically. He was a cool dude. But, he really believes he's the best player on that field. And there is, I think, part of that for every great player. Right. They have an air of athletic arrogance. And if you can do it, it ain't bragging. And so, but Joe was like that at Manning camp. Man, they had a slew of first-round picks that were there that year when Joe was there. I'm talking to his dad, Mr. Jimmy, on the Sunday morning, and Joe walks off the field. He shakes hands with me. He's like, Coach, I'll see you during the year. I was like, okay. He's like, man, I'm the best guy out there. Yeah, he let you know I was the best guy out there. And listen, with no laugh or smirk or nothing like that.
Just stone cold killer, man.
Man, that is a great line because he is a stone cold killer. He don't care who he's up against. He's gonna put the dagger to you some kind of way. He's gonna get it to you, and you know that where we saw it a little bit that final year. Okay, he got hit in the mouth against Texas. Okay, he's waiting for Justin to get over the middle, and Justin got delayed on the route because he got bumped off his coverage. So Justin's cutting over the middle, and Joe's hanging on to the ball, and he sees that defender coming there, and he takes the hit, and he throws it to him, and then Jefferson scores, seals the deal, and he walks off the field, and he just waves to the Texas fans. Just waving to them. No, that's just the way he is, and so offensively, he would be my favorite player. Defensively, I don't know of a guy who had a bigger impact defensively than Tyron did. And in those years he played at LSU, he was just a special, special guy.
Yes,
absolutely.
Well, Mike, once again, we want to thank you for taking time out your day to join us here at the Come On In Sports Network and the Keeping It Real Who That Sports podcast. Guys, up from my own head, it's been an honor and a pleasure for everyone to follow you, your own social media. Please let everybody know where they can follow Mr. Mike Detillier, baby.
I'm on WWL Radio, so you can follow me there. Also, I'm on X at Mike Detillier. You can follow me there. I don't do a lot of social media stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, I do more than Bobby. Bobby don't do none. I ain't fooling with that. So mostly I sort of preview show. If I got something to say, I'll say it. But so you can follow me there on WWL and also on X at Mike Detillier, and also I'm also on Facebook too. So you can follow me there. So, man, we all enjoy sports. We all love the Saints, and we cover them, and you can say, well, as a journalist, you're not a fan. That's a bunch of horse hockey.
Yeah.
So you are. There is a certain part of you that is a fan of that team because we grew up with it. We grew up with it.
Absolutely.
Yes, we grew up with this, man. Well, Mike, it's a pleasure. You are family now, which means you are always welcome, and we look forward to having you back during the season. One thing we know, we ain't got to worry about no primetime games. So we know we'll be playing every single Sunday. Every single Sunday.
I have a cousin of mine who's a head coach, and man, he's sort of anal about everything. Practice has got to be a certain time. You start a certain time, you finish at a certain time. Games a certain time. He hated it when they would move like a game. If they had a hurricane or something like that, and you had to, he'd throw a fit with. I'm like, okay, it's just one day. Yeah, but you don't understand. No, all coaches, they all love to be patterned. And I think all of us in life, we adjust because that's not maybe our jobs to a certain extent to adjust. We go to work a certain time, we knock off a certain time, we eat a certain time, that sort of thing. But for coaches, Kellen Moore don't have to worry about that distraction. Don't have to worry about that.
Sunday at noon. See you there.
Sunday at noon, baby. Sunday at noon.
One of the two.
Oh, one is, you're right. You're right.
If we lucky, they might flex us at 325. Who knows? But again, thank you for everyone joining us. This is the Keeping It Real Who That Sports podcast. I'm your host, Dolph Jackson. That's my brother, Zach. And you see the man next to us. It's the legend himself, baby. All the way from the bayou to the night world, baby. Mike Detillier has been in the building with us, baby, for an hour and a half. Man, we feeling special over here, baby. Listen.
We appreciate it, Mike.
We
for
appreciate real. You, Mike. Mike will be back. Because I'm a bother. He will be back during the season. We're going to get Mike back during the season. Look, we're going to get him back when time.
He's going to block your number, dog.
Yeah, he's going to block that damn Dolph. I should never give him my number. Go ahead, Mike.
Hopefully my knee's feeling better then, but it felt good for that time frame. So I'm good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
I'm
it.
glad. Yes.
Thank you,
And good
Mike.
luck on the recovery, Mike. Yes, sir.
Most definitely. Good luck. And like always, family, love and who that?
Who that?
And we out.
Cheers.